classroom discipline. And in order to make my presentation a little different, a little more memorable, I decided to make a Twitter about it. So you can see here that I have, my Twitter name, my location is EOU, my bio says that this is a project for Ed 312, and it's talking about positive classroom discipline, and then I'm a future teacher, so that's why I'm doing this. And I'm going to scroll down to the beginning of my tweets.
Your threads.
And so the first thing I talk about is I explain what positive discipline, or I explain why positive discipline would be beneficial for your classrooms. It has been proven to be more effective in the classroom than punishments or rewards. And this model allows students to learn and adapt their behaviors to meet expectations in your classroom, while also teaching them how to make better choices on their path to adulthood. And then I go on to, where did my mouse go? Okay, there it is. I go on to kind of explain positive discipline is a discipline model used by schools that focuses on positive points of behavior. It's based on the idea that there are no bad children, just good and bad behaviors. Here are some key terms for positive discipline, one of which is disruptive behavior. That means any kind of behavior that disrupts the classroom. So anything from talking to a neighbor, to jumping up and down, to running around the classroom. There's so many other examples, but those are just a few. Your physical proximity means your proximity or how close you are to the students. Another important term is academic behavior, which is the student's ability to cooperate, learn, and understand. And your classroom arrangement is really important in the positive classroom discipline. It helps with your classroom management, your organization, and the learning style. Oops, wrong way. The teacher has many responsibilities that must be done for positive discipline to work efficiently, including providing instruction and discipline through positive reinforcement, encouraging growth and development in knowledge and behavior, being consistent and creating stability, creating positive relationships with students, creating a helpful classroom arrangement. And then some expectations for students in a positively disciplined classroom include creating their own short-term goals, not, see it's capitalized so you know that's important, not disrupting the classroom.
What does that mean?
Not disrupting the classroom, that. If you have a question, please raise your hand and wait to speak until you are called on. Following classroom rules, completing classroom chores or jobs in an organized or timely manner. And did you know that the positive discipline model has many strengths, including better classroom participation, more student involvement, and limited discipline problems, which means less students sent to the office and missing class time. One of the main weaknesses for this model has to do with behavior problems outside of the classroom. So for example, how can you use this model to help when a student is being disruptive in PE or in music or at lunch? But I think having clear expectations of what the behavior should be outside of the classroom will help negate this weakness. Then I really like this quote from Frederick H. Jones. Things that are important are worth your time and effort. I think that positive classroom discipline is worth your time and your effort. Any questions? No?
Wait, question?
I always have questions. Where does this apply to? Does Hermiston still use it? Does Pendleton use it? Which school districts around here might have used this? And what are the consequences if they are disruptive?
Sorry, I'm trying to sign out also. I'm not sure if anybody uses this method wholly by itself. I feel like a lot of teachers, no matter what school district they're in, incorporate parts of this into their classroom, because I do feel like it's really important, especially the part I talked about earlier with the no bad children, just good and bad behavior. So there's the first part of your question. What was the second part of your question?
Where around here do they use it? Is there any specific area where? Okay, and then the other one, what happens if they are bad or having bad behaviors?
Well, see, and that's where the clear understanding of the rules come in. So you have and I kind of talked about this in my classroom management plan, the different levels of offenses. I think, personally, for classroom management, having clear and understandable rules in your room will help negate a lot of behavior issues, not all, of course, but having that warning system, or that offensive system set up, there we go, set up so they don't happen. So like your first offense is a warning, and then it goes, at the school I went to, it was lunch detentions. Then you go meet with the principal or the dean of students. If it continues, then you meet with the parents, and if it continues even more, that's when you get to like your in-school suspension, the really heavy disciplinary actions.
How would it apply to somebody who has behavioral issues or stuff like that then?
We'll see if they're on an IEP for behavior, which I have a student in my classroom who is, then we follow the way their IEP is laid out. Words did not want to work right there. So that's one where you as the teacher, if you didn't help write the IEP, you get together with the special education teacher or whoever wrote it, and you talk about the best way to reach this kid, which consequences work the most effectively for this kid, because for some kids, when they're acting up, if you ignore them, they'll stop, but for some kids, they just act up more. So my advice for discipline with kids who are on behavior IEPs is to communicate with whoever wrote the IEP, because they understand the kid, they understand what's going on, and talk about that and to follow their IEP.
And do they have training for this type of discipline, or is it a new type of thing, or a little bit of everything?
I'm sure they have training. I think, just from, my experience, like, when I first looked at this and I was like, that looks interesting, and I Googled it, there were tons of PowerPoints that came up about it, so I'm sure there's been trainings on it. I feel like a lot of it, not so much as common knowledge, but a lot of it is just like logical. So that the teacher may not have been to a training on this specifically, but some of the stuff still ends up in their classroom.
And then one more, who made this discipline plan? Was it the Frederick H. Jones guy that quoted
Yes.
that, or, okay.
Yeah, he's the one that wrote the book. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it for now.
Any other questions?